The struggle is real. Businesses, whether large or small, entrepreneurs, startups, mom and pop shops, they're all facing the same challenges today. And in this great episode, we're having a raw and unfiltered conversation with Josh and Meghan Boone. They are also facing the same challenges that you are. You want to listen in because in this conversation we're having with the co-owners of Cowork, located in downtown Columbus. They both own and operate two separate co-op shops, also a coffee shop. One of them was a lawyer before. One of them right now is still an international development specialist. And we're talking about everything that they're facing, the challenges that they're facing, some of the strategies that they've implemented to overcome the immediate impact of the pandemic, and where are they going. Stay tuned because you don't want to miss this conversation.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing okay.
Okay.
Doing okay. Yeah.
Just okay?
Yeah. We're hustling every day, but we're doing all right.
How are you doing?
Yeah. How are you doing?
You know, I knew I was going to this conversation, and I miss you guys so much. Obviously, you guys have some awesome coffee, so I decided to get myself a little tea over here for the conversation.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go. Oh, I should have some coffee. Oh well, I'll get
Go
some.
go get some coffee. Of course you can.
Well, I have to make it. I don't have any on hand. It's all right.
I do have water. I'll be right back.
So you guys at home, or where are you guys at?
Yeah, we're at our house. In our kitchen / sitting area. So
Yeah,
we've been using this as our backdrop. So
I love it. Well, I'm using the world map as my backdrop. I'm also using some old airline tickets.
nice.
An old $2 bill that somebody gave me a long time ago.
Nice.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, the other day we have a world map upstairs, and we pinned where we've been in the world the other day. So that was kind of cool. It's a lot.
For you guys, I'm assuming it's a lot. I got the same thing. Obviously, I have the OSU pin over here for Ohio.
Nice.
When I used to work for Mercedes, a little Mercedes-Benz pin.
Yeah.
Then I have over here a little beer. In Brazil, they gave me a little ticket that said cerveza, which is beer.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and I don't know how the heck I kept it, but I did enough drinking over there that I was able to keep that as a souvenir.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So like yourself, I just started pinning things all around.
Yeah.
I love it. That's fun.
Yeah.
How's Alejandro doing?
Oh, my little man, he's doing good. He's doing good. Sometimes he pops in here into the conversation and just photobombs it, but he's doing good.
That's how it works sometimes. We did a lunch and learn yesterday with a girl, Erin Gilson, about social media, and her son just popped into the camera yeah, let's just roll with it. It's fine.
Yeah, man. But thanks for doing this. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and I saw that Alan's going to be on as well. That's pretty cool.
Who's that?
Alan is going to be on as well.
Oh, so you know Alan?
Yeah. He's one of our members.
Oh, Alan who? Alan San?
Alan Proctor.
Oh, where he's going to be where?
Social Ventures.
Okay.
Maybe last week or something, or 2 weeks ago, about him being on the podcast. I thought that's who it was.
Oh, sorry. You know what it was? All right. The reason why I'm acting so shocked because yesterday I had a conversation with an Alan.
Oh.
Yeah, and Alan Sang was yesterday. So when you say Alan, I was like, small world. I didn't know you guys knew. So I'm waiting for him to give me confirmation of when he's going to do it. But man, thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how you guys doing, man, overall with the business?
Loaded
question.
Yeah, honestly, all things considering, okay has a new definition these days. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
We have been running relatively lean, so we didn't have any major whole crap we've got to fire 15 people and blah blah blah. Having said that, Bottoms Up is closed, and we've been trying to find ways to get a little bit of money to our baristas so they can, while they're filing for unemployment, and we, we're figuring out, how much length do we have to outlast this, and then at what point does the loss of growth opportunity start to hinder us as well? So, 2, 4, maybe 6 weeks. With the PPP loan and some other things should be okay. You stretch longer than that, then there's some other hits so we're just kind of taking it week by week. But all things considered, it could be worse.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, it could be better, but it could be worse. So we've
I
had really good support from our members as
Yeah.
well. So
And I do think that there is kind of this, at least for me, I feel a bit, I don't know if relieved is the right word, but just like it's not something that we can control. And because like literally everyone is impacted by this, for some reason that's making me feel a little bit more like okay with just
like
doing what we
we're all
can.
into this.
We're all
We're not
kind
by
of in it. Yeah,
ourselves. Yeah.
it's not something we did as a business. It's outside of our control somewhat,
Yeah.
and for some reason that makes me feel a little bit like a little bit relieved.
hmm
It's
Yeah.
not something we did, so I
And
don't know.
as far as we know, all of our staff and all of our members are safe and healthy. So
Yeah.
that's always good too.
I mean, by far the most important part is that part, right?
Yeah.
The health and safety of everybody. But for because this is going to be it's being recorded, as you know, so it's going to be both audio and video. How about you introduce yourself? Or will you want me to introduce yourself?
Do you want to introduce us?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're speaking to Josh and Megan. They're both married, and their last name is Boone. So Josh and Megan Boone. They're the co-owners or the owners, however you want to be considered, of a very near dear place in my heart. That's a great coffee shop and also a co-op shop down in Franklinton in downtown Columbus. Josh has a background. He's a lawyer by trade. Came from North Carolina, followed the entrepreneur dream to open up his business with his wife and also two other business partners. And now they're pretty much trying to manage this pandemic. While
Yeah.
Megan, man, how can I introduce you, Megan? She is the guiding light of co-op COVA, but at the same time, your background is in international relations or economics, right?
Yeah.
Politics, and her day job, her day job per se is in Washington D.C. She works in the international development field, but you can find her a lot of times supporting, being the lead support role in this co-op adventure that they started. Both of them, Megan and Josh, have to me a pretty interesting business. And the reason I say that is because as an entrepreneur myself, some people launch into a business and they just launch one single aspect, but their approach was a little bit different, meaning that they operate a co-op space, but they also have a separate co-op space. So basically two different locations. And in one of those locations, they have a great coffee shop called Bottoms Up Cafe, which I frequented before, and also in the second location, which I hope that they'll get into, they also have a daycare center.
Yep.
So hopefully I did you guys some justice with the
Yeah.
introduction.
Not too bad at all. Not
Yeah.
too bad at all.
So both locations are still open or just one?
Well,
Before this, they were
yeah.
both still open.
mm,
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, they're both still open. Yeah, they are both closed now because of COVID. Bottoms Up Coffee. When we were going back and forth before Governor DeWine actually closed restaurants and bars, we were like, should we close Bottoms Up? Not only had we seen a dip in revenue, but we were starting to get a little concerned about our baristas interacting with the public so much as this was starting to kind of really ramp up. This is back when Italy was starting to really see a lot of turmoil. So about the day of our decision, DeWine said we're closing restaurants and bars, and quick carry out is available for coffee shops and stuff. But that wasn't a big market for us anyway, so it was an easy decision to go, okay, you know what, look, we'd already thought about closing it, let's do that, allow our baristas to kind of go home, be safe, things like that. And then at the same time, our second location, our COVA Cowork location, which is a shared workspace, has on-site childcare, we had already decided to close it to the public. We allowed our members to still utilize it and keep the place clean, but that way we had control over who was in and out. A week later, shelter in place hit, and we basically were already operating as a shelter in place. The only difference that step was we told our members only access to space if you are an exempt business and you truly need to. Other than that, try to honor the governor's orders and stay at home. So that's kind of the path we took over the last couple of weeks as far as closures. But yeah, so until May 15th, both were open and running fine, and then they've been closed.
15th, yeah.
March, yeah, since and then since March 16th, both have been closed to some extent, completely. Yeah.
That must be tough, man, because obviously for me, I took myself out of the business world itself just because I have no customers, right? So, and as you know, my clients were down in Louisiana, where it's a hot zone over there right now.
Yeah.
Immediately, I started thinking about you guys because there's you guys have a traditional business with a location, right? So, with people going in and out, that puts everybody at risk, including yourselves,
Absolutely.
right? And
Yeah.
most importantly, as well, your employees as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
How are your employees doing though?
They're doing okay. So one of the decisions that we made upon closing was that, okay, we're not going to do the carry out thing with the restaurants for bottoms up coffee shop. But we can sell merch online, we can sell coffee online, and we can use that money to continue to pay our baristas. So any of the online sales that are happening, 25% are going to the baristas.
Oh, good.
So yeah, we also set up like basically a fundraising page, just if people wanted to donate directly to the baristas. So they actually this month got their normal paychecks twice.
Just slightly short than normal. Yeah, they got their normal paycheck the first half of the month because we were open, and then at the end of the month they got one that was
a little
not too much less than they would normally expect,
based on like the merch sales and donations. So
that's pretty strong then.
Yeah, so we're still doing that, and wanted to obviously support them as much as we can. And they've applied for unemployment, which sucks, but it's good that it's there. So we've kind of been this is new to them too, so we've been helping them through that a bit. But yeah, other than that, I think they're all like being smart and doing okay, so that's good. But
and we're like, I think a lot of businesses, the application process for the payment protection loan package, PPP, I think it's what's called, just open today. So we were filling that out and submitting that. So hopefully that'll allow us to continue to pay them some, as well as some other contract employees, things like that. So we'll see how that flows through. We're trying to stay on top of that as well to keep semblance. So we didn't have a huge staff to hinder, but we're trying to support them as best we can.
Yeah.
So do I say?
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, Megan. Go ahead.
I just was going to say our babysitters that we had for the on-site childcare were through our partnership with an app called Juggle, and I know that they're obviously not working in our space anymore, but Juggle is doing some sort of partnership to provide childcare to doctors and nurses that are kind of at the front line. So. So for the sitters that are still able to work, they have that opportunity, which is a win-win on a lot of sides, I think, to help some of the nurses and doctors as well as keep having them be employed as sitters. So,
So thinking ahead, I know that one of the conversations we're having through emails, the business continuity, right? Thinking ahead. Let's just say this thing lasts for 6 months or longer than 6 months. I know you said you may be able to sustain your business right now as is for how long? Maybe a month or so.
Yeah. So what we kind of have been doing is kind of like a process. So like step one was health and safety of our staff and our members. So that was like closed doors, clean space, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And step two is like the immediate holy crap, what do we do? So that was pushing merchandise, 25% going to the baristas, things like that. And then, minimizing expenses. So calling all of our vendors that were not necessary, like pausing this, that, and the other. Then we kind of moved into, okay, what's phase two? That's like the initial, we just shut doors, how to minimize costs. Phase two is okay, what do we do? So we started having conversations with our members and how do we keep some level of revenue going? And also how do we still provide a service to our member base as best we can. So we created a virtual community, which we can get into later, to keep people engaged and active in various ways online through workouts and masterminds and chats and stuff like that. As well as we kept and are starting to build to really make our virtual membership robust. So virtual mail and virtual office options. That's still up and running. Again, fraction of our total revenue base, but still something we could push. So that step 3 was kind of needing to wait for what the government was going to provide for us, because we've already talked to our vendors and landlords and whatnot. And that's the economic disaster relief, the SBA advance, and the PPP. So that's what we're doing right now. So the first phases was going to get us through April. Without anything from the government, we were going to be fine until about May 1. So then this would allow us to go from May 1 through the end of June. I think that's depending on how much we qualify for, should get us through June. And then after we do that, then we'll turn our attention to, okay, what happens if it goes past June? Because we know that, obviously our membership payments have all stopped, but already basically. Yeah. So what does that look like? Because there's not only like obviously lost revenue, but there's lost growth. So even if we do somehow are able to pay our OPEX until September or October, well, we've had zero growth, if not losses, by that point. We've been fortunate to minimize our losses at this stage, but so that's what we'll start to plan once we get through this initial PPP and economic disaster fund. So yeah.
So you're on phase 3 of that plan that you said, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Phase 3 of 4 phaser. Yeah.
So how's that going to work with the virtual? I get the virtual mail. I get but the office option. How does that work? The virtual option.
I think I just said it because I'm used to saying virtual mail, virtual office. It's basically virtual mail now. So virtual office was a virtual mail platform with some limited access to our meeting rooms, which obviously are no longer there. So really just virtual mail. But all of our virtual mail clients will also get access. Well, anyone gets access to our virtual community where we're trying to create engagement through various, virtual activities. So yeah, so virtual mail is essentially a business address. It comes to our physical location. I have all the mail on hold. I don my mask and my gloves. I go pick up the mail once a week. I do all my disseminations, put it into our systems, let people get notified. Some mail is auto-forwarded back out, and other mail is stored, and then I coordinate with the business recipient on pickup options to basically I provide in certain locations and they can go grab it without having to contact anyone. So.
I'm curious, is there an opportunity there to grow that side of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to try to. It's something we want to grow anyway, so that's something we're going to work on. It'll be interesting to see if it'll be significant enough to sustain us as an actual plan. It was just more of a supplementary. It was an actual small fraction of income, but at the time of closing, it was not even 10% of our total revenue. But we'll look to try to push it and increase it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about you, Meghan? Your business over there or the company you work for over there in Washington, D.C., how's everything working out with that?
So I think it's going to be okay. It might be a little different, but I mean, week 1 of kind of the shutdown of things and being international, there's been more talk about this for a bit longer period of time. But I think, mid-March, early March, a lot of movement started happening with kind of closing of borders and that sort of stuff. So until probably this week, I would say most of the focus had been on evacuation policy and what to do to get U.S. citizens back to the U.S. if they were wanting to leave. So that was a big focus. Now there's more of a pivot of how do we, because a lot of countries are in lockdown, so the remote work thing is everywhere now. So we're having to kind of rework our activity work plans to make it virtual sort of things, which is challenging. So there's a lot of rewriting of our work plans that then need to get submitted to the U.S. government for approval. So that is happening now. And then since my work's mostly on business development, there's still proposals coming out, but some of it will be delayed. For example, I've been preparing for a project in where? In Jordan. I'm working on something in Vietnam. Anyway, in Jordan, I put the other day, that is focused on economic reform. And basically the conversation now is, well, what is economic reform going to look like post COVID or because of COVID? So
Yeah.
a lot of things are now on hold because activities are just going to shift, and we're not sure how. But I think, I mean, I still have job security, which is good because there's still work to be done. So that I think is a blessing that I feel really lucky that I still have a job. So, and there's a
Hmm.
bit of security because it's government work.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
So
yeah.
yeah, because the fact that you're still doing the work in Jordan, you said also Vietnam as well, correct?
Yeah, I just started doing something for Vietnam
But then
today.
again, those countries over there, maybe obviously they're also impacted as well. So this is again, this is not just a Columbus problem. This is going to be it's going to be a shift all throughout
Yeah,
how
it's
we all conduct the business.
well, there's going to be, I mean, we could have a whole podcast about how this is the next issue that is going to happen in the global south is a humanitarian crisis.
Let's talk about that. That's why I decided not to give you guys an outline. That way we could have a conversation. So
I
go
don't,
ahead.
I haven't really looked into this. This is more of just my opinion.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I don't see how that is not the next phase of this because you've shut off commerce and just the basics of daily life. And when you have a lot of poverty in a country, a lot of those workers that are no longer getting any sort of employment, they don't have any income coming in. They don't have any ability to purchase food. There isn't really food to be purchased a lot of places. So when there's such a halt like that, you're going to have issues like starvation and conflict and just the things that are going to result from that. I don't, maybe people are talking about it. I haven't looked into it that in depth, but that's going to be the next global phase crisis of this thing, I think, at least in the global south. So,
No, I think you're hitting on a really valid point because if we just take a step back and remove ourselves from America, right, from the United States of America, we just start going to other locations of the world that probably don't have the same structure that we may have over here. And I'll speak from conversations I've been having with my parents. So my parents live in Dominican Republic right now. They don't have they live in a small city. If you look at the map in the Gulf, it's called Barahona. And they're not in the capital, which is Santo Domingo. In Santo Domingo, the capital may have a lot better resources than every other satellite small city in Dominican Republic. So to your point, a lot of people right now they can't go out and buy food, or they
yeah,
can, they can, but they're putting a lot of restrictions. So one of the restrictions that they put is at curfew at 8 p.m.
right.
However, with that being said, people are still they're not obeying that social distancing that we've implemented or around the world, and with that, the cases may be increasing with the asymptomatic cases. But now, imagine like you said, when this shit blows up, and then all of a sudden now we're trying to get back to normal. So it's just people are maybe like you said, poverty is going to go up, conflict is going to go up.
Yeah.
And
Well,
what do governments do that don't
right.
have $2 trillion to give to the economy? Like, I mean, I know that we're thinking, oh, it's going to need more, but there's going to be governments like we don't. It doesn't exist. There's
Right.
not a thing they can do, and they can't handle lost tax revenue. And I mean, yeah,
You know, last night I was watching The Pianist, the movie. Have you guys
Hmm.
seen that?
the older one, like the '90s or something.
My wife, she woke up and she said, "What were you doing last night?" And I told her, she's like, "Oh, that's," and she mentioned the actor's name. I was like, I don't know, I forgot. But uh, it was about a pianist, right? Well, apparently it was a true story. In I think it was in Germany. No, actually Poland. So the guy's Polish, and essentially he's a pianist, and the German troops, the Nazis showed up and pretty much just took control. No correlation to what we're going through right now, but the one thing that I saw was that they were living a normal life. All of a sudden, an invader came in, and
Hmm.
Yeah.
now things just went to shit. Now
Hmm.
they're living in poverty. They're just the buildings are being crumbled down. War, basically, right? Death and all this other stuff. But one thing that struck me was just like, man, I see how those folks during that era they were resilient, right? They obviously a lot of death was going on, unnecessary death, but that pianist just had something in his mind that he was just like the piano just kept him alive. Yeah, he was literally virtually playing the piano without any way before virtual was a trend.
Yeah.
But anyways, the movie ended with him actually playing the piano in a concert. But that movie struck me because it's like kind of what you said. You see in that movie how people just struggled, man. I don't know if you haven't seen it or you have, see it again, I guess.
But there, I guess something to build off of that is there's a lot of opportunity that comes out of that struggle as well, right? When you are faced with something that like you don't have a choice but to survive and figure out how to survive, there's a lot of opportunity and innovation that comes out of that as well. So I think we are in kind of an interesting shift in the global way of doing things because of this crisis.
I think you took the what I was trying to convey in that message was that he figured out how to survive on his own for a very long time, and there was a human aspect to this where there was a German soldier that found him, and to me it was the climax of the movie where this guy, he was starving, and he found himself a can of pickles, and the can of pickles, he just looked at it, he's like, huh. He didn't say words, but his body language was like, huh, how the fuck am I going to open this? So he found a fireplace right next to this can. And, I don't know what you call these things, but they metal that you move the wood around.
Oh, like the pokers and stuff? Yeah.
The pokers, yeah. So he started poking it and started hammering it. And all of a sudden, as he's hitting it, he's making the holes. He spins it, makes another hole, spins it, and all of a sudden, when he hits it, the damn thing just rolls right next to this soldier, the German soldier. He just looks up, and this German soldier is just like, "Do you live here?" He's like, "No, I don't." And what do you do? He's like, "I'm a pianist." So he's like, "Prove it." And this guy just played the piano, and he saved his life.
Wow.
He didn't kill him. He didn't turn him in. But then apparently the German soldier ended up going to a camp himself when the Russians got there, and then he died. But anyways, innovation. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I've not seen
So,
this movie actually.
was that? Was
I
that?
haven't seen The Pianist actually. I don't think I have.
Yeah.
That doesn't ring a bell. Yeah, I mean the title.
I know
did,
it, but yeah.
I mean, another movie we want to, or a book, it's called The Cellist. So The Cellist is a true story, also where there was a cellist in Sarajevo, Bosnia, and throughout the whole bombing campaign of the Bosnian War, this guy saw massive amount of people going through a lot of struggles, death. One thing that he did was take out his cello and started playing it in the middle of this conflict where the bombs are being hitting it all over town, and people would stop there and listen to him play once a day for however long he played. But that was the moment of hope that people were like, "There's there's something out there better than all the shit and chaos that's going on."
Kelly, Italy going out on their porch and they're like playing their music and stuff. It
was
like
that?
in Italy, I don't know the particular city or not, but people would take their instruments and stuff and just go out into their porch and balcony and just like start playing music together, but like in little balconies and like singing and stuff, just to like entertain themselves and kind of like have kind of a moment of reprieve from the anxiety. So pretty cool.
So what are you guys doing now to remove yourselves from the crazy side of trying to manage a business through this pandemic, and also manage your lives, really? Because let's face it, we're all quarantined. You guys are both married. How you guys managing through all this? If I may ask.
I don't know. So, Josh and I have talked about this. I'm going to go on a tangent, but we've talked about this a lot, like in the last couple years. So when we lived in DC for, I guess, what was that, like 8 years, we had really like separate, independent lives. Didn't really hang out except for like we'd see each other at night before bed and then on the weekends, and that was kind of.
We were both working like 60 hour weeks. We were both
like working a lot, and like Josh was coaching at a gym, and I had a pretty social life, I guess. And then we did the remote year thing where we traveled around the world for a year, with our remote jobs, and saw each other like every single day, and lived together and all that. And then it has been that way for the last 3 years, just like kind of constantly being around each other, and it's surprisingly not bad.
Yeah. It's been a big transition because we were already always around each other.
So it hasn't been too much of a transition. But we've been doing a lot of house projects.
Painted the porch,
Painted the porch.
Yeah, pressure
Sure.
wash the house. So a lot of house projects. I mean, we're definitely keeping busy. I mean, we're still working a ton.
Yeah.
We got really good merchandise orders coming in. A lot of support for buying like our coffee and our mugs and things like that for Bottoms Up, which was great. Um, and so I've been sending that all that stuff out. Um,
Walking our dogs a
Walking
lot.
our dogs a lot. Yeah,
I've been going on for a lot of runs, and I've seen
Yeah.
the uptick, the increase of people actually enjoying the outdoors by either biking, walking, or doing something, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Instead
yeah,
of just not doing nothing. So, because I know you guys are trainers as well, or is it
yeah.
just you? Are you a trainer as well, Megan?
No.
She's like, no. Are you still keeping up with the training
Yeah,
business?
so the gym that I coach at is doing online virtual classes every day at 10 a.m. Our members have been going to them as well, so they're great. I actually wrote the last 2 weeks of workouts for them and coached two of them. We have a different coach coaching the classes each day, and they're recorded if you need to do them later. So I've been doing that, and then one of the coaches also does yoga, so it's 2 yoga classes a week. And speaking of running, as you guys both know, but the audience doesn't, I despise running with every inch of me. Like I grew up a swimmer and I'm also not particularly good at running. So like I never ran, I'm not good at running, I don't like running. So in April, because now I can't do what
Thanks
I
for
like,
clarifying that.
yeah, no problem. So in April, since because I can't like do what I like, like lifting weights and CrossFit and things like that. I said, well, why not try to get a little better at something I don't like, and not that I think I'm going to like it, or not that I'm going to try to become a runner, but so for as long as shelter in place it happens, I'm going to run a mile every single day during that time, just to try to get a little bit more comfortable. I'm not trying to be I mean, I did one half marathon and that was horrible. I'm not trying to be a 5K runner than that, but it's like, hey, I could just do a mile and just try to like use this opportunity to get a little better at something I don't like, and it can benefit the stuff I do like, which is CrossFit. So
I think you should get one of these right here and
Quarantine
quarantine
journal.
journal,
start writing it inside the quarantine journal. The
love
fact that
it.
you're gonna this is just me trying to, because I just,
Is that yours?
yeah, it's available on Amazon. I figured, I
Yeah,
have no more. I don't have a business anymore. Let me try to. So I have a full line of journals now on
Wow.
I
on
will book
Amazon.
on after this and probably do that. I love that.
Yeah, I have what I decided to put, like, it's called the entrepreneurial, what is it, the entrepreneur collection. That's one of them, and there I created like a whole bunch of, on the front cover, some motivational quotes. And then I
Yeah.
decided this one was the state of mind collection with the quarantine journal. And anyways,
Nice.
the point I'm trying to make is, if that's one of your goals, you should get one of these.
I
Yep.
think
Write down.
Well, and I think it's going to be interesting. It's funny. Her dad has been reading a journal, William Drake's journal from the
Where
1800s.
well, so it's a
Yeah,
family member.
right.
It's just William Drake is a
Yeah,
nobody.
yeah, but
But
this journal, yeah, from the 1800s. But I think but him doing that, it's kind of cool because think about years from now, whatever. And obviously, we read stories from people from World War II or whatever, and hopefully nowhere near significant of that, but 50, 60 years ago, like, oh, like when the entire global economy shut down for 2 months, like, what did you do? Like, oh, I
yeah,
have this thing. Here is what, your granddad did during the, 2020 pandemic. They kind
Had
of,
had had you not said that he's a nobody, I was already. You saw me. I was already leaned in, eyes open, ears
yeah,
wide. I was like, I want to know more about this guy. He's a
I
nobody.
mean, I think he was. So
hey,
he's
wasn't he a writer or something?
no, he was like a politician of. I think he might have been. I don't know. He's somehow related to me. He's like a great something or other, 1860s, and I think he might have been a congressman.
It-
Um,
he was a somebody then. I mean, we
Yeah,
all we
he
all
had
are
a branch
somebody.
from somebody. But the point
I
was that it's
underplayed
kind of
that.
cool because it was,
Yeah,
like it's like from way back in the 1800s.
yeah,
His
it
dad's
is
reading it.
cool.
It's like it's kind of a cool. He's like, oh, I'm reading this thing, and it was like also when this William Drake lived during the
Yeah,
I don't know the Civil War. Like that would be really nuts to read. So
yeah, it is
it'd be kind of cool to have some kind of like you never know what's going to happen in the next 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks. So it'd be kind of cool a journal so you can look back
There
to
you
it.
go.
There
There you
you go.
kind of
go. So here's a question: How long have you been in quarantine then?
We just finished 3 weeks. So
right. Yeah,
yeah, so right before everything went crazy, we had flown to Colorado And then while in Colorado, it was like it went from like, oh, there's this thing happening abroad, like it might get to the U.S. and start to get concerned, to, oh man, that's we got back right before Governor DeWine shut down restaurants and bars. So when we got back, flying back, we're like, we need to self quarantine.
Well,
so we did that for 2 weeks, and now we're doing 1 week of shelter in place that didn't count for quarantine.
Yeah, but we were in Summit County in Colorado, which is, I guess, kind of where, like, the epicenter of where they had the most cases for COVID. And while we were there, they shut down all of the ski resorts and all of the bars and everything. Like the day, our last day there. And my parents have a place out in Keystone. So, and then the governor of Colorado said if anyone was in this county, you need to self quarantine for 14 days. So we got on the plane, and then we were like, well, shit.
We were rolling the dice here. So no symptoms. So that's good.
Yeah.
Is it safe to assume that you've ran 21 days then?
No, I just started
21 miles.
I just started in April. So I just started in April because I didn't even think of the idea until April 1. So I've run today. Will be mile 3. But
okay. So all right.
I have at least until May 1st. So I've got 30 days.
I got really inspired by you, man. I was like, so he has 21 miles already under his belt then.
But I have worked out a ton.
So what kind of workouts are you doing then?
All body weight type stuff. I have some resistance bands I may start doing soon because I can recreate almost any barbell or dumbbell movement with a weighted resistance band. And I have bands that go up to 100 pounds. So I've got some stuff like that I'll start doing. But the last couple of weeks have just been body weight. So whether it's like quicker, push-ups, pull-ups, door rows, jumping on chairs, all sorts of stuff. Squats, lunges.
Dude, I think I have a perfect market to think about after during this stuff and afterwards. So my dad, and all love to my dad. My dad has a beer belly out of fucking hell, dude. He's like 80 something years old, and he's telling me he lives in the Dominican Republic. He's quarantined now. He's like, I'm building myself a little gym. I'm like, you're doing what now? He's building himself a little gym. So I sent my mom a couple of videos of exercises that he could do without any equipment.
Yeah.
So that could be a very good market to be in, because a lot of people right now are going through a lot of stress. They can't sleep, depressed, anxious, and they're going to beer, they're going to wine, they're going to alcohol, and obviously that's going to make a lot of people increase in body weight, right? And that beer belly is going to be there. So I don't know, man. That could be a good segue for you.
Beach body shred. I don't know.
Yeah. So the virtual community that we built on the fly, we have different activities every day. Some of them are professional, some of them are just more social. But it has been nice having a consistent workout schedule every single day, and then we have yoga on Wednesdays and Thursdays as well. And it's kind of a nice thing to just get moving and do it with other people that you're tight with. And
why am I not part of that?
You can be part of it. Aren't you on it?
Out emails.
You know what? You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
At what time does this start then?
So we have stuff all the time. But the workouts specifically are 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. every single day through Sunday. Yoga is Wednesdays 6:30 and Saturdays at 11:15.
Yeah.
But we're adding in all sorts of stuff. So we have a calendar. You can go to our COVA Cowork and get it. But I know we sent to you directly, but or just email us at hello@covacowork.com. And we'll just send you the calendar link. It's just a Google Calendar, and we just upload all the different links, Zoom links, or whatever it's going to be. Mostly Zoom, but not always. But we've got the workouts every day. We're doing masterminds, which are facilitate group discussions. So we did one on obviously COVID response. We've got one on Monday that's on SEO development. We do lunch and learns, which are kind of like masterminds, but with a 15 to 30 minute pre-prepared discussion. So on this past Thursday, and those are all on Zoom and Facebook Live. This past Thursday was social media, how to make money through social media. So it's a 15 to 30 minute pre-prepared conversation, and then Q&A for anyone's on. On Tuesday, it's podcasting. So John Ondo of Premier Podcast is going to come on, do a podcasting 101, and then just Q&A for whoever wants to.
I did receive that email. I know what you. Yep.
Yeah. So we've got coffee chats. If we're just low key, let's just hang out and shoot the shit. We did a bad movie night through Netflix Party. We watched Tremors. That was awesome. A movie that's so bad it's great sort of thing. So yeah, we're throwing things all the time. We're trying to add
Yeah.
more. I know April 15th, I believe is the date. We're going to be linking with Experience Columbus. They're doing a talk about all the different benefits around the COVID stuff and what the government's providing for entrepreneurs. So we're not hosting it, but we'll have that on our calendar. So we're putting things there all the
Yeah, and
time.
we're starting to do more of that. Of like, there's a lot of organizations and businesses that are doing a lot of great, I don't know, Zoom conversations or response sort of discussions. So we're just making sure that people have access to that as well. So I've been reaching out to other businesses to see what they're doing and making sure that like just people that are in our community have access to it, and that we're also just promoting it for them as well. Because again, it gets back to the whole thing of like we are in all in this same
Together.
situation,
Yeah.
all in it together. So like we should be supporting one another as much as possible. So we're doing a lot of that as well. Of just what other organizations are doing cool things that we want to make sure that people are aware of and plugged into as best as possible. So
Yeah.
And I think I think this is a great location for me to put a plug in for why did I start this podcast. As you both know, I've been thinking about this for a very long time, and now that my business just went to the side like everybody else. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because I know that there's businesses like yourself that are valuable to the community, and there's definitely things that you guys are doing that other people should be hearing, like this virtual community thing, right? So,
Mhm.
can somebody join in for free, or how does that work out?
yeah,
Yeah, so I'll send you the calendar link in a little bit. Like we have a little PDF that explains it, but it has the calendar link to it. If people have the ability, we're asking if they're willing to pay $5 a week to be a part of it, just to kind of help us support ourselves. But during this whole crisis, we're not requiring. Obviously, any of our co-working members don't pay anyway, but anyone else, we're encouraging them to join. And not expecting pay during this time period, because we just want people to feel connected and get some value out of whatever they're trying to do.
But at the same time, I think it's a good strategy for you guys, because after this, at least if you build that clientele right now through this virtual community, at some point they may need to go somewhere, and that now you have a pipeline of individuals that may go
Yeah,
to you guys.
yeah.
mm,
That's the part of the goal as well. And some of the co-working publications are we're expecting potential bullish market after all this is in, because now a lot of businesses who were reluctant to go flexible or virtual are now being forced to. People are gonna find some comfort, but at the same time they're also gonna get that realization of working from home full time is not what it's cracked up to be. So that kind of co-working is that happy medium of, well, I'm a corporate business owner. I don't want the expense of a massive office, but my team doesn't want the loneliness of working from home full time. Co-working is that perfect kind of blend of, they need to work from home a couple of days, they certainly can, but they can come in and have a community around them and still, but it's a comfortable, productive, and innovative kind of space. So we're
Hmm.
expecting that. You never know, but
yeah.
we're kind of anticipating and working towards building that up when
If
when this ever ends.
if we survive whatever
Yeah.
this.
How long you think it's gonna last?
I was going to ask you that because I feel like you probably have a better sense of it.
Yeah.
Why is that, Megan?
Just because of like the risk analysis stuff that you do. I don't know.
Yeah, that question has been asked, and I think my projection is going to be 18 months, and there's a rationale behind that, meaning that when you look at the situation in Wuhan, and also just other parts of Asia, take for example South Korea, those two right there are prime examples of how short of a time it took for them to control it. Meaning that in South Korea, it took 3 or 4 months to actually get things under control.
Yeah.
Wuhan, the same thing, 3 or 4 months. If you look at Italy as an example, they're still going through it, and we're about to go into month four, potentially for them month five, right? I think it's month four for them. But in the United States, man, the reason why I'm saying 18 months is because DeWine, thank you so much, sir. If you're listening to this, I
Yeah.
don't even know if you will, but look at what DeWine has done, right? If the whole country would have done what DeWine has done, I think that answer, Megan, I think it would have been 3 or 4 months,
Yep.
possibly five or six, because you would have some knuckleheads out there that don't listen, like that Ohioan teenager that was down in Florida party, and he's like, if I don't know if you guys heard about that, where he was like, so basically in the middle of spring break, there was a news camera crew that went over there, and they recorded some teenagers partying, not teenagers, but I guess they were 21-year-olds, whatever. But this one guy, he was from Ohio. He's like, if I get COVA, I get COVA. Not COVA. You guys are COVA. Sorry.
I
If I
do
get
that too.
if I get COVID, I get COVID. And to me, I think that's so irresponsible because my
Yeah.
wife, my wife has a low immune system.
Yeah.
You do as well, right? And I think if DeWine's approach has been, trickled down throughout all other 49 states, I think it could have been 4 or 5 months. But there's so many inconsistencies, right?
Yep.
There's inconsistencies between cities, between counties, between
Yeah.
states, and then you throw in the federal. Now they're debating whether or not the states have a right to do something, whether the federal government does. It's just like,
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, and I think the thing that is, I don't like so logical to me is that borders aren't real. That's all man constructed. Like the virus is not going to just stay out of Ohio because of something that DeWine did, which he's been great. But like if Indiana or wherever is not following the same precautions, it's gonna still spread.
Yeah.
And that's
right.
the point. Like that's why it's not. If there's no consistency with it,
Well, that's what
we're kind of
Cuomo was saying. He had a press conference probably at this point a week and a half ago, so last decade. But he basically said he can't make a decision for New York unless basically New Jersey and Connecticut both agree, because they're so interconnected. I mean, because I don't want to make it say, okay, New York City, everything's shut down, and people are just like taking the train to Hoboken to party and bringing Corona right back. So he's at least thinking that, but I mean, yeah.
So do you think that it's like going to be full quarantine for that long, or you think it's going to like relax? I don't know. What do you think?
The 18-month projection that I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think the 18-month projection is going to be us being able to go back to normality. Again, that 18-month could be less, and I'm hoping it could be less for all of our sakes, right? Because your business is impacted, our mental health is impacted. I think it's just a matter of, number one, I think a lot of states are starting to realize that they should have potentially done this something earlier. So the 18-month is going to be that curve that they keep talking about, where things are starting to go down. I
Yeah.
think it could be 12 months when the curve actually goes down, and an additional 6 months before we say, you know what, let's just start putting the economy back and saying, let's just uplift some restrictions. But even still, I think even then, and I'm not a professional here, but at the same time, I think the behavior of people is going to change dramatically, meaning that people may not feel comfortable back out. So I don't know. It may. I'm hope. Was that
there's gonna be some trauma that people are gonna have with
trauma? There you go.
And large or medium group settings. I think it's going to be a really interesting if it goes past June. Which,
the Alejandro.
Oh, you hear him? Oh, yeah, that is my son in the background.
If it goes past June, which is June 30th, where does the parent protection plan basically stop? June 30th is when we have to use it by. It's going to be an interesting world to see what small businesses start to do. Do they close because at that point there's no safety net? It's like, even if we have a chance over the next 3 months, we can't survive. Do they start consolidating, collaborating, coming together and saying, well, I can't make it on my own, but if these 7 restaurants come together and we kind of become a conglomerate, does that work? I think you're going to see some different business structures that come as a result of this. So people who can't survive solo as a mom and pop shop. Hopefully it won't be like the big guys gobbling up the little guys for pennies, but it could be that too. It's going to be interesting for the mom and pop or the startup entrepreneur,
which is what like we full on fall within.
We fall within.
So,
but that was like the big thing. The backbone of the U.S. is small business, and it was with technology becoming cheaper and more available and more palatable for even the non-tech person. You know, entrepreneurship was becoming a thing you could do. And when you have this now in the way of this COVID crisis, and you know, funding is always an issue for young entrepreneurs and young businesses. But you get to this point, like, okay, now that's a problem. Do they just shut doors? And now that there's this long period of time where people are scared to try again. And so, what does that look like? And then, what are the businesses who are like still want to be entrepreneurs, and still wanting to fight, but just can't fight by themselves? I think we're going to see new business structures form from what you're used to seeing. I just, but what does the trauma look like down the road? Of, am I just going to try to get a 9 to 5 because I'm already too debt locked for my last business that was crushed by this problem? I don't know.
I've been asked whether or not I'm going to take advantage of these loans or not, and man, I don't know if I want to get into more debt, right?
Yeah.
So
that's the problem. It's still a debt structure. And that is not, small businesses can't just take on more debt. That's still crushing.
Yeah, especially when we don't know when this is going to end.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, I just need debt to get through May. Sure. And I don't know if it's going to be done in May. That's what we like the payment protection plan, because it's forgivable to some extent. So we're like, okay, like we can do that. But yeah, like we could spend all that money and it's June 15th and we haven't, and you know, Dr. Action's like, well, we haven't hit the peak yet. And so now we're still in lockdown. Well, if I took an actual loan, which is the economic disaster relief, which is an actual SBA loan, it's just a low interest rate. Well, crap, I've spent all of it and I still can't open it. And now I have $100,000 debt that I can't pay.
So we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We did have a whole conversation about that. We're going to try to do the payment protection plan and then see what happens. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
You know, go ahead, Josh.
So it's and then you have the other problems with, like, so for us, you know, these are really good months for member growth. What is in that spring before summer hits and people are doing their summer things. So like we're losing growth potential. You've got other things of like small restaurants. Well, sure, like let's say they can open back up. Well, one, they have to get new staffing probably. I'm sure not all their staff's going to be available still. So retraining, they've got to buy brand new inventory, probably create a new menu based on what they can get, and then do soft opening to make sure everything works. And then they can open up. So at best, you're talking 30 days once all this is released, and you know, $50,000 to $100,000 beyond all the OpEx they've got to pay and their payroll just to open up. And these are businesses who at best have a 20% profit margin. So at best are, you know, like scraping by. So, you know, and then we've got one member who's a real estate broker who is saying, you know, this time of year is really good for him because you've got medical residents trying to find new locations in Columbus and all the medical things. And you've got young families who want to use the summers when their kids aren't in school to do all their moves and buy their homes so that they're not moving while their kids are, you know, back in August. He may lose that season, which now pushes that season to next year, which means he loses a massive chunk of revenue that can't be easily regained. So there's going to be these massive trickles that are already going to happen. And if you push it past June or July, I mean, the loans are not the answer for that, because that doesn't help. It doesn't help. So, and the PPP is great for a short term, but again, if we go past June, that's not going to be that's going to be useless. Yeah. So it's yeah.
But you also like can't open up too soon from a health perspective, because then you still have the same problem, and then it's just I don't know if double negative is the way to say it, but like you have people dying and businesses failing, and nobody's doing anything productive or effective for this you know, disease situation.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's a really tough situation, but
I think you know, when you asked me that question as far as the risk mitigation and risk management aspect of it, considering that we've already put ourselves, the whole country, not the whole country, but the majority of the country has put themselves in the type of a lockdown situation. When DeWine is always up at 2:00 in the afternoon. I don't know if you guys are doing the what is it called? Wine with DeWine?
Wine with DeWine, yeah.
Wine with DeWine? I've not heard that.
It's like a drinking game. Which says
my God.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. That sounds perfect for me.
Yeah, so the Wine with DeWine starts at 2:00, and apparently a lot of Ohioans just log on and just listen to him and drink wine to listen to the leader right now, right, of the government. Yeah. But while waiting for him, I turned on the ABC app on our Apple TV, and on the top right hand corner, it shocked me to see all the planes that are still
Oh my god.
flying, right? So
Yeah.
back to what you said, that the border, although we have borders between, Pennsylvania and whatnot, people are still flying.
Yep.
Yeah.
My brother's a pilot, and he's being asked to
That's right.
continue to fly.
That's right. With
So
Spirit Airlines, right?
yeah, he did say, I need to call him, but we were texting last night, and he did mention that they're planning to ground a lot of planes, or I don't know if it's all or just a lot, until the end of April, starting on the 8th of April. So I don't know if that's like an announcement or if that's just what he was told as one of the pilots, but he's been flying between multiple cities a day this entire time.
Alone
So,
or with actual customers?
with actual customers. Some days, he said, like yesterday, he had a flight that was only 7 passengers. He's had some that were much fuller. They had one where one of the flight attendants became feverish and ill, so they had to lay down the whole thing. And then he and the pilot just flew out of Vegas. They were the last. They flew an empty plane out of Vegas. They were the last plane to leave before the control tower got shut down because one of the controller guys tested positive for COVID. He was the last plane out, and everyone was like, I guess, freaking out on the airways. So there's not really any policies in place either for these pilots to know what is a pandemic protocol for, stuff. I mean, they know what to do when there's like a sick passenger, of course, but it's different when it's something that's spread so easily. But
And these are the conversations that I had so much fun in with my previous clients. Just thinking of crazy ways that a problem could come about, and alternatives and solutions that you could potentially think about before it happens, right? So the fact that, and I don't want to turn this into a political conversation, but the fact that we could have potentially been in a better place in this country because of the the tabletops conversations that were held way before any of the shit transpired. To me, on a personal level, it pisses me the fuck off.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So one of our friends that you would, I'm sure, love talking to, Sarah, she does, she works for Department of Defense, or I don't know, it's Department of Defense, I think. But her job is to do basically war games. So different scenarios. She's in charge of organizing all of these like generals and people in the military to talk through scenario sort of things. And she's done one on a pandemic before. So it's not that people, like,
okay.
There was preparation. It was just, it was ignored by certain people that are in our country. So that's, I think, for her too, like, she's a government employee that has as her job prepared for things like this, and the protocols that were that came out of that were ignored.
Yeah.
So, like, what the fuck,
Yeah.
Use language, but
no, you could curse. You could curse in here. Don't worry about it.
But that just seems absurd to me, and like, we should be pissed off about that.
Yeah. I mean, when I first heard that, I was like, wow, I can't believe that.
Yeah. Well, and then having states have to bid against each other for medical supplies.
I think that's also bullshit.
That's insane. That's when it doesn't matter. We could get in a whole politics conversation, but like state regulations and federal regulations, yes, there's the separation of the power and whatever. But in a crisis situation, the federal government is there for that purpose, I think, to step in and have a plan and have a policy that doesn't matter what state you're in.
So one of my favorite shows is the Hamilton show from New York, the Broadway. So I bought my wife the Hamilton book that inspired the play. It's pretty big, so I was like, I was driving a lot, so I decided to buy the Audible, and I started listening to it. And one of the things that came that to your comments right now, George, there was a governor, the first governor of New York. His name was George Clinton, I think it was, or Governor Clinton at the time, was against Hamilton's plans to actually have a system in place. Think about this, right? A system in place to help out states when they're in a economic crisis.
Yeah.
And he was saying at the time, no, we don't get in, kind of like what you see right now, where it's just like, don't get involved. We don't want to get involved into the state's issues, or the government saying we don't want to get involved with business issues. It's just like, fuck everything. I mean, in my opinion, put everything aside. People are dying, man. That's
the thing. That's where like the hypothetical, like, I don't know, academic argument for separation of power and state rights versus federal control, and like small government versus big government. That's all fine to like discuss, and there's an academic place for it, and there's reality for it too. But in a situation like this, where it's a crisis, like that should not be part of it.
A crisis that doesn't care about borders.
It shouldn't. Yeah, like that shouldn't be something we're discussing. And again, states shouldn't be pinned against each other in a crisis situation, which is what happens when there's power in whatever. So
yeah, but Cuomo said it the best, that he feels like he's like an eBay now, right? Where it's just like they keep on, bidding for each other, which sucks.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest Louisiana, I have a dear heart for Louisiana just because my clients were down there. I did a lot of business, and down there, man, they don't have a lot of resources as far as the ventilators and whatnot, the medical equipment, and again, people are dying. So
and so we have a few friends that are doctors, and we've been chatting with them quite a bit. There's also at the hospital level. I mean, this is not just at the policy level, but the hospitals don't necessarily, when they don't have these resources, they also are not able to put the right practices in place for protection of the medical care providers. So our friend, our friend is a doctor, and he's been asking kind of like, what's the plan? What's the schedule? How are we protecting ourselves? No one has said anything. So this group of the doctors that all work together have created their own policy, and they've taken matters into their own hand to do like the system and process of how they're going to work within this pandemic, and nobody is giving them any guidance. So not only are they the doctors on the front line that are doing the medical work, but then they're also having to figure out
the solutions to this problem.
And like, okay, so I guess we'll work 7 days at a time, 7 days off, and they're like figuring out how to do self-quarantining. So
7 days on, 14 off, so they can see if they get symptomatic, and then they can come back in.
Yeah, but they had to figure all that out on their own, which is also like insane to me, and kind of pisses me off as well. Like where's the system for that?
Yeah.
Why are the doctors being asked to figure that out as well?
Yeah, when I heard that they're using plastic bags, it's like, what? Instead of the gowns, or is reusing the same masks. Obviously, these are all problems that we hear on the news all the time, but it's fucking surreal that they're actually, And
this is where some of that innovation piece, like it's not good, and it's a really bad situation that we're in. But out of it, there's going to have to be some huge shifts that happen that are it could be a good thing, not the situation itself, but the outcome of the innovations that come out of all this.
Yeah. So what do you think about what do you think about the masks that are being produced by businesses that are, how can I quote this? How can I put this? Obviously, you have a lot of businesses out there that are shifting their production line from, let's say, I don't know, Hanes as an example. Hanes, from T-shirts to masks. They probably have a way, a sketch of how to do it in a safe manner. But then you have smaller shops that were doing something else completely. Now they're doing masks. I'm not a doctor, obviously. I'm not a scientist, but I think there may be a risk there with those masks. No,
I don't know.
I mean, I think it's more, again, I'm making this up because I have no idea, but I think
me too here.
he sourced the right material, and it's more just putting it together. So like, as long as you have the right cloth or whatever what it is that causes the mask to become something that protects, I think it's more just like cutting it, folding it, putting the side pieces on, so it becomes a wearable thing. So if they've got the ability to produce and sew and all that really quickly, and it's just more sourcing the material
for the ventilators
then
and stuff.
Fine. Ventilators, I think, is a whole, like, you got to know how to make that.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's got to be like a system to make those, because like GE is starting to do that. GM, I don't know, all of them.
Yeah, that was another one that pissed me off too, when apparently California received a whole bunch of broken ventilators.
Yeah.
It's
What?
like,
Yep. Yep. And then also, well, this is getting political, but then Trump saying some stuff about like we sent X amount of ventilators to New York and they say they don't have enough. And then he's like throwing out these conspiracy theories about that they're selling them on the black market and they're getting shipped out of the hospital. And just like, why is our president putting that crazy shit into the news cycle that people are listening to? I mean, again, from a risk strategy standpoint, I'm curious to know your thoughts on leadership and how that impacts things.
I think words matter. I think words matter so much, meaning that if you say the wrong thing, it could backfire dramatically. If you say the right thing, it could benefit you. So I think from a leadership perspective, wait, let me backtrack. Let me ask you again. What kind of, are you asking a leadership question based on his leadership or just?
Just in general, like when you have something, when you have a situation like this and it's a crisis, and the way that crisis management is being dealt with, I mean, how much does the leadership, like the person that is top, how much does that matter? And not really versus, but like along with like what everyone else does in the response from everyone else, like how much does that leadership impact and matter?
So I think it matters a lot. Meaning that, and I will answer it with two different examples. Number one, again, we have to go back to DeWine. DeWine's capability to manage this crisis from the moment it actually started with Atkins' help
Hmm.
uh, is really, really valuable. So that's the right way of doing it. Meaning that he's standing up on the podium every single day and discussing the entire program with his cabinet. And whenever it focuses on business, although he may be able to answer that question, he diverts it back to the lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
Uh, any medical question, he could probably answer it as well, but he leaves it to Dr. Atkin. And I think from a leadership perspective, what we see now is that he's answering every single thing for everybody, meaning the president, right? And I
Mhm.
think, in my opinion, I think if he would just allow his cabinet just to step in, kind of like Doctor, what's his name, Fauci,
Yeah. Fauci.
Fauci, I, utilize your talent, utilize your specialists that are able to make those decisions and go with those decisions, go with those recommendations instead of trying to call Alex Rodriguez. I don't know if you heard about that. He he called Alex Rodriguez for some advice. And again, I didn't think we were going to be talking politics here, but I
Yeah.
think leadership matters a lot because people are going to be looking for direction. People are going to be looking for direction. People are going to be looking for decisions to be made, and you're going to have to make tough decisions. And if you make some really a tough decision that may be bad down the line, at least you made a decision soon enough
Yeah.
instead of waiting for it to get worse and then making a decision and then having to clean up your mess after the fact. So hopefully that sheds some light into that question. But I think
Yeah.
leadership is
100%.
critical.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. What's your thought on that?
I don't know. I was just curious. I mean, I think I probably agree that like, yeah, it is very important. And the part that's important is how you go about it. And words do matter. And if you're not listening to your specialist or letting your specialist answer it, then you're putting things out into the world that might be inaccurate. And there's a lot of people that are sheep and they're not going to look into it themselves. So they're going to follow what is being said by our leadership. So it's
Yeah.
important that it's correct,
Yeah.
or at
Because
least like correct, or I mean, factual, based in facts.
Yeah, because
So,
people are going to be looking at you for some type of guidance, right? And you can have some people that are going to be rational and try to, look at that information and say, "Hey, wait a second, I smell bullshit there."
yeah,
Or some people are going to say, "That's it. It was said.
right.
We march on." I think that's the risky part right there. That you have to be careful of the words that are being said and how it's being said, and also the venue too. So
Yeah,
Yeah, and then down the road, there's going to be, as we get farther and farther, people are going to want it to be over so much that they may throw rationality out the door if they hear what they've been hoping to hear. I know this got stepped back, but like, oh, like we're going to be open by Easter. And so let's say Easter comes and it's like, yeah, like things are starting to slow down. Something off the cuff, like maybe we can open up shop in 3 or 4 days. People who are just like itching, who are stressed out, anxious about their business, whatever, may just take irrational steps by some statement that doesn't have enough backing. Even if they know, like, even if a week too earlier, they were like, that's crazy. So you've got to have, leadership that understands like the appropriate time to do things, because people are going to just be on edge and will react to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, leadership, I know we're talking about just one person at the top and then everybody else kind of just follows. But to your point, Josh, I think there were some pastors down in South, I forgot where it was, whether it was Arkansas or whatnot, or Florida. Anyways, there were some pastors that pretty much said, hey, since he says we're going to be open by Easter and we also have our rights, right? Right to congregate. Let's go ahead and have a sermon and just have people come into our church or whatnot. Now, those folks, I don't know if you heard about that. Some of those pastors got arrested.
Oh,
yeah. So there was also a choir, I think it was in Washington, that gathered to practice. 60 people, 45 of them now are positive with this stuff. So it's just, words matter.
Will not get. Yeah. So I think, it's as we become more stressed, more anxious, and this drags on longer, people are going to want to end so bad that they will become less rational. And if they hear what they want to hear to give them the ability to leave, then they're just going to. And the other side of things, people may, no matter how much you tell them that things are safe, will never leave their house again. I don't know. But I think that's where leadership really has to choose its words carefully. And that's what I like what DeWine's been doing. Yeah. He's been very, very like fact-based, data-based, and just kind of like, here's what's going on and here's what you've got to do. And again, relying on his experts that he's surrounding himself with, and not just saying things off the cuff.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to become more and more important as we progress this down longer. So
yeah. Well, hopefully this doesn't last too long, right?
I will have the greatest house ever. I will have all my house projects done. So the longer it goes, it'll be great for my house, but terrible for everything else.
I gotta get on that, man. I have not done any house projects at all. I suck at that, but I should start though.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit of it's a little cathartic. It's a way to kind of like step away from everything and all the craziness of the business and stuff. Yeah. I'm like, I'm just painting the porch. I'm going to get this done and spend a Saturday doing that. So it's kind of a nice like reprieve. Plus, since everything can be delivered, you can get that done and not have to go out and buy it, and go into the stores and stuff. So
yeah, we just had our Aldi delivered today.
Yeah.
But all right, so in a week from now, I'm gonna touch base with you, see if you added an additional 7 miles.
Will do. Yeah. I'm doing mile 3.
Wait a second, Megan. Why do you react like that?
I just think it's funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, how you say you have 3 miles, right? What was your average pace?
Day 3. Yeah, I just started April 1.
What was what's been your average pace?
I'm not even timing it.
I don't know. I think yesterday, I ran with them yesterday. That felt like probably about like a 9-minute pace.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. Just doing it.
The reason why I'm asking is because you strike me as a speed demon. Like somebody's just gonna go out there and get it.
So throughout my entire athletic career, even now in CrossFit, I'm very much a sprint athlete. So I was at 150s and 100 and hundreds. My skill set is in like interval-based things or quick, efficient movement. At high pace for short periods of time. So I've never been a distance and cardio athlete. Your ultra craziness is crazy.
Yeah, how far are you running?
Yeah.
7, 8 sometimes. I've been squeezing in 10 miles. Today, actually, I did a 2-mile speed run. I'm about to go after this call. I'm going to do another 2-mile speed run, tempo run.
How fast is your 2-mile speed run?
8-minute miles. I've been trying to. Yeah, so that's my goal right now, to get 8 minutes. So today, the first one, I think I clocked it in at 9:25, I believe it was. And then when I saw that, I was pissed off. I said, nope, 8, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And I squeezed it in at 8:17. So that's going to be my goal for this afternoon, try to break that 8:17.
Nice. Yeah, I'm still definitely doing like probably 4 to 5 like general workouts, and then just throwing the mile in there with it now. So maybe I think I'll probably like do a week or so, and then I'll start actually timing myself and see if I can start picking up the pace. But right now, I'm just trying to get to the point where I was like, all right, if it's a mile or under, I won't hate it that long. It's short. So
Hey
and
man,
in CrossFit, we do 200s, 400s, 800s, and miles. We never do anything more than a mile. So I'm like, this will get me better at what I like to do. So
maybe I should pick up CrossFit. Maybe I should do something different because I'm always, I don't know, man. I enjoy just being out there for like an hour and a half and just coming back, you know?
Yeah.
well, when all this is said and done, come check out our gym in Gehenna. It's awesome.
Yeah. So you also have a gym. That's right. So how's that being impacted?
So I'm just a coach at that gym,
Okay.
but obviously, like no one can go in, so they've been closed since maybe like not quite, or maybe a week after they closed restaurants and bars, they closed gyms and everything too. So Brian Walsh is the owner of Superfit at Gehenna, and so he's been doing the online workout. So there's a base level body weight workout every day at 10, which is what our community has access to. I've coached, and I wrote the first 2 weeks of those workouts. And they're made for all levels of people. But then a lot of our athletes have various equipments at home. So each one of us coaches have identified a piece of equipment that we have then written workouts for. So for me, it's resistance bands because I already had a lot of that stuff. So if you have a bunch of the big rubber bands, I have all sorts of workouts that are strength-based, cardio-based, whatever. We've got one coach that wrote kettlebells, one that wrote, if you have a set of dumbbells. So also you've got a rower. So we've got a coach doing that for particular athletes to say, hey, like we're still going to provide stuff for you. We're still going to be coaching you. So I can't speak to his revenues and if he's lost a lot of members, but I know that there's a big core membership base that's staying strong and is still getting value. They just can't go physically to the gym. So we're still definitely providing stuff. So
yeah, I mean everybody's impacted, like we've said consistently throughout the conversation. So, all right, gentlemen, sorry, Meg. All right, so we could just wrap this up right now. But thank you so much for being part of this podcast. I know it's been on my radar for a very long time, and I really appreciate you coming on board. So I'll
political.
what was that?
Hopefully, I didn't take it too political.
When I was thinking about the name for the program, I decided to keep it a conversation, right? Because that's exactly what I want. I just want to have a conversation without people getting too, why are they talking about politics? Hey, man, we're just having a conversation. That's it, So I think we're in a safe place right here.
Yeah.
So again, you're listening to Luis Ramirez on the Conversation Podcast, and this is Josh and Meghan, both business owners of, go ahead, you could sign off with your business.
So we own and operate Bottoms Up Coffee and COVA Cowork. Both are in the Franklinton neighborhood. We've been closed since March 16th and have shifted as much virtual as we can. So if you want to be a part of our virtual community, we'll have the link to Luis, as well as you can email hello@covacowork.com.
And also, you were talking about some support for your baristas as well. I'm not sure if that's still going on.
Yeah, any merchandise you buy from Bottoms Up Coffee, which is on our website, bottomsupcoffee.com. Any merchandise you purchase, 25% of the total revenue goes to our baristas. We also have a barista donation, which obviously 100% of that goes to our baristas to kind of help them kind of get through this.
Awesome. Well, Josh, Meg, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and hopefully we get to hang out soon.
I know.
Yeah, I miss
you. we gotta hang out for real.
Yeah.
Coffee chats or something.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate
you.
Bye.
Bye.